got another hip hop track tonight that I'm working on. This one is it's like a pop track, pretty basic instrumentation, a lot of keys, a lot of like pads and synthesizer. But I'm gonna just kind of go through everything and mix it like I would if someone were to submit it to me. So I just kind of they sent me a reference, so this is the rough mix. So let's listen to that just to see what their relative balance is on the mix and see what they're thinking. And then once I have an idea of what they're going for, then I can backtrack and then go through the track and get the balance right, and then we'll make it sound better. So let's get into it. There we go.
I tell everybody I'm okay, yeah. I feel the pressure, I gotta get this stress up out of my brain, yeah. I get it fed.
So right now I'm just listening to the balance between like the kick, like the drums, percussion elements, and then just the synths and the beat and the vocals. So those are basically the three main elements in like something like this. You're gonna want to get that balance right. And so we're listening to this mix just to get an idea of what they're thinking. So the vocals are the loudest. So actually the percussion's pretty quiet too.
I'm growing colder. Just
so yeah, vocals are just super loud in this, and their rough mix, and everything else is just way tucked down. I think that's a little bit overboard, so I think we're gonna level it out a little bit more than that. So this song has about 70, 80 tracks or something like that. So let's just go through. I always like to start with either bass or drums. So let's get the drums going. So just the percussion elements. So we have this like reverberated clap. Let's give it a little bit more air. Okay, sounds good. There's a little bit of annoying frequency in this. Let's dig that out. It's right in this 2K, like right here. Yeah, right around there. Just gonna take some of that out. The vocal is gonna want to sit in this region anyways. This is like where the enunciation part, like the intelligibility of vocals is right around 2K. Yeah, that's way better. Okay. So the reverb also dies a little bit too soon. It's not like flowing with the song. So let me just extend that a little bit. I'm gonna give it a little bit more reverb. It's like a nice hall or a plate reverb. There we go. Yeah. Cool. So that sounds pretty good. Okay, so then it goes to the next part. So we have these snaps. All right, I like my snares to really be punchy. So let me find. Okay, so this is the snare. So I'm gonna put a compressor on this just to kind of smash it. So then we'll get a big punch, and then it'll duck it away and then swell it back in. If that makes any sense. So let me see what we got. Let's get this a little punchier. There we go. So I like to time everything to like the flow of the song. So should be a little bit faster. I think that's good. Yeah. There it is. All right, so let's put the drums back in. Make sure this thing's hitting hard. So it needs a little bit more than just that. So this one just has a lot of top end in it. So we need to give it a little bit more like meat. And that usually lies right around 200 hertz. Oh, in this case, it's like 250. There, right there. You can kind of hear it. So I'm going to give it a little bit more. So that's just going to give it like a punch that'll come through the speakers of your car better. There.
Okay,
Cool.
yeah. I've been sipping on a lot of things tonight. I've been trying to numb all of my pain away. I've been rolling up like I'm a fiend tonight.
It's still kind of quiet. I'm going to just turn it up.
And I tell everybody I'm okay.
There it is. That sounds better. All right. So after let's see. Then we have these snaps. So let's check these out. Pretty standard. They really don't need much. I'm just gonna, again, a little bit of air. Cool. Just any of these, anytime you have percussion and it kind of carries a beat, you want it to really just be there and punch through stuff. I just realized that my head is like, let me fix this so I'm not like a crazy floating head. And there. I do have a body. There. Sorry about that. Cool. All right. All right. Again, I want these snaps louder. Yep. Something else we can do. Let's try this. This is we'll use a envelope shaper. So this is just going to give it a little bit more attack. Maybe this is what I really want. Yeah, that sounds way better. Give it more. Let's go overboard. There's no rules. Cool. And then because it's drying it out, I'm just going to put a little bit of like a plate reverb on there, just really lightly. Just to let it wash a little bit. No, that's too much. Yeah, right there. All right, cool. So check this out. You hear how much like there's now a defined beat. Before it was kind of quiet and you couldn't really hear the beat at all. So let's get this kick going a little bit more. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Let's try this envelope shaper. Okay. So there's the initial punch. I don't know if there's enough low end though. Let's just help it out a little bit. Cool. So now what I'm just gonna listen as the kick drum and see if there's a spot where it kind of sounds like cardboard, and then we're gonna kill that. So, because that's gonna get in the way from like the chest frequencies of the vocals when the vocals are coming in. So actually, right around 230 is probably a good spot because that's where we are emphasizing the snare, right? So let's go back to the snare. So we're boosting at like 260, 250. So that's actually probably a good spot to pull some of this out. So let's see if that sounds like crap there. Where's my kick at? So if we get rid of some of it. So the question is if we get rid of it, do we miss the way it sounded? And if the answer is no, then we're going to leave it that way. It's better to clear stuff out than have too much stuff in. So it actually sounds like deeper than when it's like, than when it has all that stuff. So we're going to leave that cut. There we go. All right. So there's this cool little stick thing. I want to play it for you. This thing. I don't think we want to do too much to it. Except maybe just make it a little bit easier to hear. Because it's there for like texture almost. Okay. Just a little something to make it pop out a little bit more. All right, let's listen back.
I've been sipping on a lot of things tonight.
See how much more punchy the drums are now, the percussion, now that we've like gone through and forced the kick and snare to hit a little bit harder. So that clap is a joke. We gotta do something to this thing. Turn that up. We'll also give it a little bit more air. There. I want to hear what they did in the rough mix, because I don't know if that clap is just supposed to be like an accent or something. No, it should be the same. Cool. All right. So let's listen for that stick thing. Yeah. All right, I'm digging that. Let's bring in the cymbals now. So these are too loud to me right off the bat. And I'm usually a fan of making my hi-hats pretty sizzly, but we got to be careful to respect like the sound of the artist. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of air way up here at like 20K. And then this is like that. I hate that frequency. So I'm just going to do a sharp cut here. So what this is doing is this is going to kind of balance this cut that we have here in volume. It just kind of shifts the hi-hats so that they're a little bit easier to listen to, but they still sound nice and like crispy. But we might have to come back to these in a second, because that's also where the vocals tend to stay, and we don't want to crowd that high frequency too much. Otherwise, the vocals are going to sound pushed back in the mix. So we got to be careful, because if we make this too big, then we're going to have a problem getting the vocals in. So let's just listen to everything together, all the drums. Here's another hi-hat. Just gonna take that away. All right, I'm digging this. This is kind of vibing right now. So now what I want to do is I'll go to my drum bus, my main drum bus, and I want the drums to pump a little bit more with the beat. So basically I'm just, this is actually probably pretty good. So let me just show you before and after. So when I don't have the bus compressor on there, the drums just kind of hum along and that's it. They really don't go anywhere. So here is without it. And then with it, see, there's this like bouncy movement to it now. And then without it, it just sounds like drums, you know, it just sounds like individual samples. But when this is engaged, this has like, it makes it sound like there's a groove to the drums now. I like that way more, so. All right, cool. So I'm digging this. I think we're ready to move on to the next thing. So I usually go to bass next. Again, the important thing for me is that I make sure that that the bass, the kick drum and the bass don't fight each other. So we're going to be doing some tricks to make sure that that doesn't happen. So let's go back to this. All right. Let's bring the bass in. So we have 3 different bass tracks. I'm just going to solo these for you so you can hear them. So we have the sub bass track. That's exactly what it is. It's just like the sub bass. Then we have this chord progression track. I don't even know what this is. Oh, it's just kind of following the vocals. And then we have this melody one. So I can tell you right away that this thing needs a little bit more attack on it. I want this to kind of like pick at your brain, like deep in your brain when it hits. Yeah, I guess I don't know how a better way to explain it than that. But we're gonna get there by using this envelope shaper again. So this is just going to accent the very, very first like 20 or 30 milliseconds of these notes. Yeah, see? Let's get pretty aggressive with it. Yep, there we go. And then this is just the main bass, I guess. So in this case, what I like to do when I have this is a little bit tricky because we can worry about this later, but with sub bass, you want it to be pinned down very, very consistently. So what I mean by that is we're going to take like a limiter. We'll try the L2. And we're just going to smash it. Like, we're not going to let it move at all. And what that does is that keeps the subwoofer consistent in your car. If you let this be a little bit more dynamic, it just kind of sounds crazy with the subwoofer. We want it to be very consistent. And this doesn't really have any, like, melody to it. So, in that case, we really won't notice that there's no dynamics there, or very little dynamics. So, smash this thing, and we'll just dial it up. Cool. Okay, and then we'll let the other bass just kind of be a little bit more free, and then that'll give the melody and the sense of flow. But this will keep the subwoofer happy and consistent. So let's check it out. What do we got? Okay, what we need to do is we're going to take this kick drum and we're going to sidechain this bass. And what that means is that we're basically sending the kick drum signal to this compressor on the bass bus. And what this is going to do for us is it's going to allow us to duck. So anytime the kick drum hits, it's going to take the volume away from the bass and then bring it right back when the kick drum's done hitting. So if you can do this right, you have the balance between the kick drum hitting and then the bass gets out of the way. So then you feel the kick drum and then the bass comes back up and it's fluid and it has like this flow to it. So that is achieved by adjusting the attack and release times right. So we have this. So let's send the kick to this so we can hear what it's doing. Because right now the bass and the kick drum are right on top of each other. So the kick drum is this one. Okay, so now we're just going to send this kick drum signal to our sidechain. So we have bass, send that, and then so we should see it ducking now anytime the kick drum hits. So right there you go. So now, if you listen carefully, you'll hear the bass from the bass guitar goes all the way down and then swells back up. Okay, every time the kick hits, and only when the kick drum hits. Okay, so now what we want to do is we just want to balance this so that it's not super noticeable, but it's more vibey with the song. So for me to do that, what I like to do, I always, since I'm like a scientist, like during the day and then a music producer at night, I always do things kind of analytically. So I have this tempo timing chart. It's basically just has all like the milliseconds of the tempos mapped out so that I can tell it exactly what exactly what the time is for a note at a particular tempo. So that might sound a little bit confusing, but I promise it's not too crazy. I made a blog article about this, and I can share it if anybody's interested. But yeah, so let's dial this in. So this tempo is 125, so that would mean that a 30-second note is 60 milliseconds. So I'm just going to put 60 or half a 60, which is like, well, we'll try 60 first and see. But that'll be, in line with, like, in the beat, we'll say. So it's not fast enough. That, I think, might be fast enough. So I'm just listening to the bass, so it's swelling in, and if it takes too long to swell in and I notice it, then it's too slow, so we want to make it faster. Yep, that's better. Cool, we'll just leave it like this. So let's bring in all the drums again in the bass so we can compare it. All right, the bass kind of has this weird grit to it I'm not digging. It's kind of boxy. So let's dig some of that out. Like that. I don't know what... This is garbage. Listen. Wait, where'd it go? Bring that bass back. There. No, like, that needs to go away. And I'm usually not a big fan of the high frequencies in bass, so let's solo that. Because I think we can get rid of a lot of this high frequency, because it's just adding noise. It's not like helping the song at all. Right? It's not really doing anything, I don't think. Just getting in the way. So let's keep that rolled off there. And actually, I'm going to dial this back. We have I was rolling off a lot of the really deep sub bass, but this is hip hop. We want that there. That might be too much, actually. We'll make it a little bit tighter. All right, so normally we'll play it safe and do 32, and then what I'm also gonna do is just put on a multi-band compressor just to squeeze that low end, just in case it gets too crazy. It's pretty crazy right now, so we'll have it like maybe 90 and less. We want the punchiness of it to stay, so we're gonna make the attack slow. Actually, I'm just gonna do the whole low end. It needs to get squeezed down. It's too aggressive right now. I think this is sounding okay. Yeah, this is better. All right, cool. Let's bring in those drums and then get a volume. All right. If you guys have questions at all, feel free to ask them in the chat. I mean, I'm not seeing any questions coming up, but oh, I guess there are. Anthony's talking. What do we got? We got questions. Hold on, let me see what's going on. Yeah, they're not coming up in my normal window. Yeah, Anthony's just talking crazy talk right now. All right, I'm just gonna keep going. So we got this going. Doesn't sound too whack. It sounds pretty well balanced. All right, let's start bringing in some of the other elements right now. So we have guitars. Let's bring those in. I feel like that's like most of the melody of this song. So I want the guitars to sound a little wider, so I'm gonna put this like phase shift thing on. So let me show you what this is doing. So without it, the guitars are kind of dropped in a little bit, and then with it, it'll push everything out a little bit wider. Check this out. So some other things that I'm noticing is this track jumps out. So I'm just going to throw a limiter on it just to keep it from getting... There's certain notes when he's picking that really jump out. And I want to make sure that they're just there. It's not like the drums where we want it to really punch. We want it to be a little bit smoother sounding. And there's some really annoying frequencies in this. This crap. Hate this stuff. Ugh. Like that's like an ice pick to my brain. Like right to my eardrum. Like whoosh. So we're just gonna kill that. Much better. Cool. Yeah. And then also with guitars, you really don't need much over like 8K for clean guitars. Again, it just starts turning into noise. So actually, I'm going to dial it back to like 6500. Oh, get rid of that too. Guitars can be rough. All right. I'm digging this. This is starting to sound pretty cool. What is this one? So I bet this is just like an effects track for the one above it. I could be wrong though. But we got to get rid of those same frequencies over here too. They're terrible. And then let's just take that high frequency stuff out. Cool. Sounds pretty good. What's this one? Man, I can hear that. It's just like a whistle. Right there. Get rid of that. I think people, like a lot of people when they're mixing their music, they're scared to make these crazy cuts and stuff, and I don't know why. Don't be afraid. There are no rules. So this one still has some like annoying frequencies in there. Let's clean those up. Right there. And again, I'm just going to kind of compensate for those cuts by adding a little bit of a top shelf. Just to bring some air back to it since we cut so much out. So we bring the guitars and bass back and the drums. It starts to sound something like this. Hold on a second. Okay. There's the drums, bass, and guitar. I would mess that up. All right. There we go. So I don't know if I kind of want a little bit bigger guitar thing going on. So I'm going to put a little bit more, I'm going to put a little bit of reverb on it. Something like that. And then this track is clearly too loud. So I'm just going to lower that down. All right, let's get everything in there. Sounds pretty cool so far. And then with that other guitar track. Yeah, okay. Now what I'm gonna do, so we have all these like other tracks, but these are mostly like sound effects. Some weird, like just pads to add space. These things all need to be carved around the vocals. So let's put the vocals in and then start getting those to sit right. And then we can just start adding tracks, adjusting the volume, and then cutting anything that's getting in the way. So let's get the vocals in.
I've been sipping on a lot of things tonight. I've been trying to numb all of my pain.
So these came pre-processed for me. They sound pretty good.
I've been rolling up like I'm a fiend tonight. And I tell everybody I'm okay.
Sorry, I'm just gonna mute that. Okay.
I feel the pressure, I gotta get this stress up.
So the only thing that I'm noticing is that we need to bring up some volume. So let's maybe a little bit of air too. So let me bring this in.
Out of my brain, yeah. I get it faded tonight and I might just put up with the game, yeah. If you was living the life that I lived in, it's probably the same, yeah. Oh, she told me that she wanna grow older. I told her that I just need some closure tonight, yeah. Ice all in my veins, I'm growing colder. Just another night, I never sober, yeah.
And then I also I'm thinking that maybe.
Tonight, and I tell everybody I'm okay.
So there's,
okay.
There's this harshness right here. I'll show you.
I feel the pressure. I gotta get this stress up out of my brain.
We're gonna get rid of that.
I get it faded tonight, and I might just put up with the game, yeah. If
there might be a little bit of.
That I lived in is probably the same, yeah.
We can take that away.
She told me that she wanna grow older. I told her that I just need some closure tonight. Yeah. Ice all in my veins, I'm growing colder.
Yeah, that sounded better.
Night, I never sober, yeah.
Cool. Cool. So let's make this a little bit louder and more in your face.
Things tonight. I've been trying to numb all of my pain away, away, away. I've been rolling up like I'm a fiend tonight. And I tell everybody
Good.
I'm okay,
And then
okay.
there's a little bit of sharpness, so we'll dial this. This is a de-esser. So anytime he has like an S sound, like a sussa or an S or a T, those usually are really sharp frequencies that are bright. And what this de-esser does is it is set up to listen for those frequencies, and then it just when they're there, it takes them away and then brings it back. So to make the vocals a lot smoother.
Things tonight. I've been trying to numb all of my pain away, away, away. I've been rolling up like I'm a fiend.
So we don't want to go too crazy. We just want to see that this attenuation bar dips only when we have those bright frequencies coming through. That's it. If it's red the whole time, then we're being too aggressive with this. And if you're too aggressive with the de-esser, you start giving the vocalist a lisp. So they don't like that.
And I tell everybody I'm okay, 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 yeah. I feel the pressure, I gotta get the stress up out of my brain, yeah. I get it faded
So
tonight,
right here is
and I might
good.
just put up with the game, yeah. If you was living the life that I lived in, it's probably the same, yeah.
All right. So that's good. And then the last thing I like to do is always put a limiter on the end. And this is just to make sure that if there is a really loud part for some reason, that this will just kill it and make it level. So it's pretty transparent. So we just dial this in so that only the loudest parts of the vocals get chopped.
All of my pain away, away, away. I've been rolling up like I'm a fiend tonight. And I tell everybody I'm okay, okay,
Right
okay,
there.
okay, okay, yeah.
Cool. So let's bring it back in with the instruments.
I feel the pressure, I gotta get the stress up out of my brain, yeah.
So right now I can tell you that the vocals are fighting the guitar like crazy. So we're going to do the same sidechain trick that we did earlier with the bass and drums, but we're going to do this with the guitar and vocal. So I'm just going to clear out some of this, basically the range where we hear and understand vocals the most is where I want to attenuate the guitars. So let me send the vocals to that bus, and then hopefully that'll make them a little bit more clear and easy to understand.
I get it faded tonight and I might just put up with the game, yeah. If you was living the life that I lived in, it's probably the same, yeah. Oh, she told me that she wanna grow older. I told her that I need some closure.
I think that helps quite a bit.
Ice all in my veins, I'm growing colder.
The other thing we can do is let's just make the vocals louder in general. There's no use fighting. I mean, the reference mix has the vocals so loud. Let's listen to that again.
Pressure, I gotta get the stress up out of my brain.
I mean, it's like all vocal, right? And so my vocal's kind of quiet. So we gotta bump these way up. So let's do that. We can raise them up here. There we go.
She told me that she wants.
So now something I like to do is we'll compare what I have so far with the reference mix, just to see if I'm going the right direction. If the rough mix sounds worse, or if it sounds better than what I have, then I probably should just give up and give this job to somebody else. But let's just listen to it and see if I'm going the right direction. Usually my mixes tend to be really wide and clear and defined, and then we have very bright in-your-face vocals. So let's see if my mix sounds like that. Sounds, like that, I guess, with compared to the rough mix. So here we go. So here's the rough mix.
I've been trying to numb all of my pain away, away, away.
And then my
I've
mix.
been rolling up like I'm a fiend tonight. And I tell everybody I'm okay, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going the right direction. It's sounding a lot more immersive. The vocals are a little bit harsh right now, so I'm going to just go back and make them not so bright. So I can do that here.
I feel the pressure, I gotta get the stress up out of my brain, yeah. I I get it faded tonight and I might just put up with the game, yeah. If you was living the life that I lived, then it's probably the same, yeah. Oh, she told me that she wanna grow older. I told her that I just need some closure tonight, yeah. Ice all in my veins, I'm growing colder. Just another night of never sober, yeah, yeah. Chilling with a homie, smoke 'em out. Cut a couple lines, put my fears away. I sip champagne.
Vocals are sounding great to me. So now what we have to do, we got to make sure we get these these ad-libs that we have. But it looks like we might be missing some. But I want to just see how these are fitting.
All these bad things tonight. Maybe you and me should run away, 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 away. Don't know if it's nightmare or a dream tonight. All these drugs do something to me.
So something I like to do that on these with these ad-libs is I'll actually do. There's this crazy plugin by SoundToys. I never found a way. I never ever used it much, except for. I kind of dig it on Adlibs where you don't want it just to sit center. You just kind of want it to like move around, left and right a little bit. So that's what I use this for. I just have it on like something like this where it's just like where it shifts back and forth a little bit. But I usually have it go kind of slow. So let's just adjust this so it's slower. Do it like that. And then actually that's way too fast though. Yeah, something like this. Let's just see how it sounds with it. It might sound crazy. If it's distracting, then this is the wrong decision. But normally it just kind of gives it a cool little effect.
I've been thinking all these bad things tonight. Maybe you and me should run away, 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 away. Don't know if it's nightmare or a dream tonight. All these drugs do something to my brain. Ain't okay, okay, yeah. I feel the pressure, I gotta get this stress up out of my brain, yeah. I'm getting faded tonight and
I like that. I'm gonna leave it.
If you were living the life that I lived, then
I'm gonna bring the width down a little bit though, just so it's not too noticeable that it's running back and forth in the mix.
Then you probably the same, yeah.
All right.
It's big on the strange, yeah.
Let's go through these keyboard parts and just start throwing things in. So we'll loop this section and bring in all these keys. So what do we got? These are all pretty quiet. So actually, I'm going to turn everything way up because I can barely hear what these are doing. And they're probably supposed to be pretty quiet in the mix, so we won't go too crazy, but I don't even know what I'm hearing. And those are samples, so it's okay. Let's bring these up. All right, so this is gonna be way too loud, but we'll adjust it. Actually, it sounds okay. Maybe a little loud.
Yeah, I've been sipping on a lot of things tonight.
So this, I think, is what the main keyboard sound should be in the song.
And I tell everybody I'm okay, 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 okay.
That needs to come down.
I feel the pressure, I gotta get this stress up.
So a lot of these things, like this thing sounds mono. We got to get that out of the way. Because if it's sitting mono, it's gonna fight the vocals the whole way.
I get it faded tonight and I might just put up with the game. If you was living the life that I
So you can hear how quickly all these keys and pads and everything just slowly took over the mix. So we have to be very careful with these. Right? I mean, there's tons of stuff going on. So let's go into the EQ first and clear out some of the mid-range. Anything that's not necessary, we got to get rid of to make room for the vocals. Probably right in this range too, needs to come down a little bit. And then let's just make it a little bit bigger with this phaser thing. I love this thing. Okay, let's hear what that sounds like. Still too loud.
I've been thinking all these bad things tonight. Maybe you and me should run away. Or drink tonight. All these drugs do something to my brain.
So I'm just lowering down these keys. They're just like taking away all the space for the vocals, you know.
And I might just pull up with the gang, yeah. If you were living the life that I lived, then you probably the same, yeah.
Alright, I'm just gonna make this even quieter. It's like when you're as a producer, like you come up with all these things like, oh, that sounds cool, and make a track. Oh, that sounds cool, and you just keep blaring it. But at some point, it takes away from the song, and I think that's what's happening right here. So I want to make sure I have all the elements in. But if it's not really catching my attention, or if it's not making the song like awesome and rememberable, then I usually just tend to stay away from like even having it in, or turn it way down. So there's really nothing that's like memorable on these tracks that makes me like want to hear it more. This is kind of cool. So maybe that could come in, but these other things need to probably go down more. Oops. And I like this because it has a cool texture to it. But a lot of these things, I'm just going to turn them down. What is this? Yeah. I mean, like I said, it all sounds good. It's just, we want, the main thing is the vocals, so we have to make sure that that's the main thing. All these other things have to be turned down. And that's actually a good reason why it's a good idea for a producer, someone who's writing music, to give their song to someone else. Because the other person isn't like stuck holding on to like different elements. Like if I wrote a song and found one of these synths and it took me 3 days to find it, I'm probably not going to turn it down, right? So, but if I give it to somebody and they don't know the history of that song and it doesn't help the song, they can objectively make that decision and get rid of that. So
I've been thinking all these bad things tonight. Maybe you and me should run.
Okay, so I'm just trying to find the different parts that don't. So that synth's kind of cool, but all these other ones are not really doing much. So I'm just gonna turn all these other things down, like a lot.
I feel the pressure, I gotta get this stress up out of my brain, yeah. I'm getting faded tonight and I might just pull up with the gang, yeah. If you were living the life that I lived, then you probably the same, yeah.
Alright, that's sounding better.
It's been kinda strange, yeah.
And then that swells way too loud.
Yeah. It's been kinda strange, yeah.
Cool. Okay. And honestly, at this point, it sounded pretty good. So then I would just print this, see if the client likes the rough balance of everything, and then import it, put a master on it, and then finalize it for their album and adjust it to make sure it fits with the rest of the songs. So let's do it before and after. Let's check out the original mix and then compare it to what I did. So okay.
tonight. I've been trying to numb all
turn
of
this
my
up so
pain
slow.
away. I've been rolling up like I'm a fiend tonight. And I tell everybody,
So this is the original mix that they sent.
Okay.
And then this is my
I
mix.
feel the pressure, I gotta get this stress up out of my brain, yeah. I get it faded tonight and I might just put up with the game.
Original mix.
If you was living the life that I lived, then it's probably the same.
My mix.
Oh, she told me that she wanna grow older.
Sounds pretty good. I'm happy with this. We'll see if it's what the client was envisioning for their song, and then at that point we just kind of iterate back and forth, and then we call it a quits.
With the best, the beat, the feet, the feeling. My confidence is straight to the ceiling, so you can say that.
You said he couldn't take the cool nights.
You close when it's lost, take us.
We'll leave the greatest when we